Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to look at the brain from a couple of really interesting angles.
Yeah, two different perspectives.
Exactly. We've got a scientific article from the scientist talking about 3D printing actual neural tissues.
Pretty cutting edge stuff.
Right. And then we'll also look at an exhibit called Mindscapes at the Clay Center, which is actually closing soon, and how it explored the brain.
So the lab bench and the public space.
That's it. And the mission for you listening is to sort of see how these two things, building brain models, sharing brain wonders, how they actually link up in this big quest to figure out the mind.
That's a really neat pairing, I think. You have the hard science pushing boundaries in bioengineering, try to build these like artificial brain bits, and then at the same time, an effort to make all that complexity understandable, engaging for everyone.
Yeah, it really shows you need both angles to tackle something this huge, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Understanding the brain isn't just one thing.
Okay, so let's dive into that first piece, the 3D printed brain tissues. This was in The Scientist, work by Su-Chun Zhang and his team, Duke U.S. Medical School and University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Right, Zhang's group, they've been doing some fascinating work.
What really struck me was the why behind it, this need for better models, to study brain health, disease. Those neural networks are just so complex.
That's totally the driver. I mean, the models we have are good, but they have limits. Studying live brains is complicated, ethical issues.
Right.
And static samples don't show you the dynamics. So building functional 3D human tissue in vitro, in the lab, that's a game changer.
In vitro, right, outside the body.
Yeah. It gives you this controlled environment where you can actually watch things happen. Think about, say, Alzheimer's, maybe seeing those very first plaques forming in a dish.
Wow, yeah, that'd be incredible.
That's something that's super hard to capture early on in a person. And then you can maybe test therapies right there on those early stages.
So their method, it involves 3D bioprinting using a special bioink. Proteins, gel polymers. Sounds complex.
It is sophisticated, yeah. But Zhang had this great analogy, like having all the ingredients for a dish. They figured out how to guide human stem cells to become different nerve cell types.
Okay, so they have the ingredients.
Exactly. The key is the assembly, how you put them together. And their paper in Cell Stem Cell really shows the potential here, creating these tailored brain tissues for specific research questions.
And the article mentioned a big hurdle they cleared, something about how typical 3D printing stacks cells vertically.
Yeah, that's a common approach.
But that doesn't really work for brain-like connections, does it? It's like building a tower where the floors aren't really connected properly for communication.
That's a great way to put it. Brain function relies so much on these horizontal networks, these intricate webs, so just stacking, not quite right.
So what did they do differently?
They developed this special bioink. The article called it a Goldilocks ink, which I liked.
Huh.
Made with fibrin hydrogel. And it had just the right stiffness. Enough support for the cells to live and keep their shape.
Right, eat structure.
But not so rigid that they couldn't reach out and form connections. The axons and dendrites, the wiring, and the synapses where they talk.
Ah, okay. So the ink itself was part of the solution.
A really key part. And then how they printed. They layered neurons and astrocytes, those important support cells, horizontally.
Horizontally, okay.
Yeah, in patterns designed to mimic parts of the brain, like the cerebral cortex and the striatum. The whole goal was functional circuits.
Functional circuits. And did they get them?
That's the amazing part. They did. The tissues showed consistent communication between neurons, within regions, and even between different printed regions.
Seriously, how could they tell?
They used electrophysiology, basically listening to the electrical chatter between the neuron, and calcium imaging.
Yeah.
That lets you sort of see the cells light up with activity as calcium levels change when they fire.
Like tiny lights blinking on and off.
Pretty much. And it showed these artificial tissues were acting in ways that, really resembled activity in a living brain, consistent and patterned.
That's just mind-blowing, really. The article quoted Massimiliano Caiazzo, a neurobiologist from Utrecht University, saying this could lead to creating tunable, lab-grown circuits for studying diseases.
Exactly. Imagine building a little piece of tissue that models Parkinson's, for example.
Right, and testing drugs directly on human-like tissue affected by that condition.
The potential is huge. And Zhang also made this other point, because they have such fine control.
Yeah.
They can design brain models that might not even exist in nature.
Yeah.
To really probe the basic rules of how cells talk to each other.
That's fascinating. Testing fundamental principles by building something new.
And it really shows how far things have come. The article mentions older papers, like one from Lozano back in 2015, highlighting the challenges with those earlier vertical methods. This horizontal approach seems like a big step.
Okay, so that's the deep science, creating these incredibly complex models. Let's switch gears now to sharing the wonder of the brain more broadly.
Right, the Mindscapes exhibit.
At the Clay Center, it's closing soon, Sunday, May 4th, 2025, unfortunately. But it sounds like it was a really neat way for people to get hands-on with their own brains.
Yeah, the description sounds great. Very interactive, designed to pull people in, whether you're just curious or maybe even a budding neuroscientist.
You know, sometimes seeing something tangible, even if it's a model or an illusion, can spark that interest, like those mind-bending illusions they
Oh,
mentioned.
yeah, illusions are fantastic for that. They instantly make you question how your brain is working, how perception isn't just a passive recording of the world.
Makes you realize your brain is actively constructing what you see.
Exactly. That moment of, whoa, that's not what I thought I saw, can be really powerful,
Mm.
especially for younger visitors. It might be the start of asking deeper questions.
And they had other hands-on stuff too, right? A life-size walk-in brain.
Yeah, imagine that, physically walking through different brain regions. That kind of spatial learning can really stick with you, helping you understand the anatomy.
Definitely beats just looking at diagrams in a book.
For sure. And the mental gym, giant chessboard, brain teasers, puzzles. That's getting people to actually use their cognitive skills right there.
Makes it active, not passive.
Right. And I thought the Dream Network was a really creative touch.
Where people posted dreams.
Yeah, and it formed this big collaborative model of a neural network. It connects something deeply personal and abstract dreaming to the underlying biological idea of networks.
That's a clever bridge. So it sounds like the whole exhibit aimed for that mix of discovery and, well, fun.
Trying to demystify the brain a bit, make it less intimidating, more fascinating.
And maybe inspire some future scientists along the way. It also mentioned a partnership with the West Virginia Drug Intervention Institute.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, it suggests connecting brain understanding to real-world health issues, like addiction or recovery. It reminds you, the listener, why understanding the brain matters beyond just curiosity.
Absolutely. Public health, societal issues, they often have roots in brain function. That partnership highlights the relevance.
And for anyone who missed it or wants to see what else the Clay Center does, they're in Charleston, West Virginia. You can probably find info online.
Yeah, worth checking out their future programs.
Okay, so we've got these two worlds, the lab, building these incredibly detailed artificial tissue,
Pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
and the public exhibit, making the brain engaging and understandable. How do these two connect? What's the thread linking them?
Well, I think the core connection is that shared goal. Just trying to get a better handle on this amazingly complex thing, the human brain.
Deepening understanding, whether it's cellular or experiential.
Exactly. The 3D tissues let scientists dissect the nuts and bolts, see how the networks function or malfunction at a really fine-grained level.
While Mindscapes, that's more about the bigger picture.
Yeah, giving the public a feel for the overall structure, the amazing things the brain does, appreciating its capabilities. It's like looking at the same mountain from the valley versus climbing up close with geological tools. Both give you understanding.
That's a good analogy. And maybe insights from the lab work, understanding those circuits better, could eventually, I don't know, influence how we design exhibits in the future.
That's a really interesting thought, a feedback loop, potentially. As we learn more about connectivity, maybe we can create even better visualizations or interactive tools for public understanding.
And it's fascinating how the struggles Zhang's team had getting that functional connectivity right in the dish.
Yeah, the horizontal layering.
It directly reflects the complexity that Mindscapes was trying to show people. That microscopic complexity is what creates the macroscopic experience.
Absolutely. The intricate wiring at the cellular level is what enables thought, perception, everything the exhibit explored.
And thinking about Zhang's idea, designing brain models that might not even exist naturally.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
The implications there seem huge. If you can build custom circuits, maybe model a brain with a specific genetic quirk linked to something like autism or schizophrenia.
You could study how that cellular difference plays out in network activity in a way you just can't easily do otherwise.
Which could lead to totally new ideas for therapies, right? Really targeted ones.
Potentially, yes. That's the hope, understanding the mechanism to find a better intervention.
And then flipping it around, An exhibit like Mindscapes, something engaging and inspiring, that could be the spark for a kid who grows up to be the scientist developing those very techniques.
It absolutely could. It's about building that pipeline, fostering curiosity, showing that science is exciting and relevant, making the brain less of an abstract concept and more of, a source of wonder.
Creates public interest, maybe even support for the research itself.
Crucial,
Yeah.
especially for complex long-term research like neuroscience.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. Key takeaways. Scientists are making really significant progress with 3D bioprinting, creating these sophisticated brain tissue models.
Giving us amazing new tools to study neural communication up close.
And at the same time, public outreach, exhibits like Mindscapes, they're vital for making the brain accessible, engaging for everyone, connecting the science to lived experience.
Both ends of the spectrum are pushing our understanding forward, just in different ways.
Which brings us to that final thought for you, our listener. When you consider these advances building brain models, understanding brain models through exhibits, what new questions pop up? Especially about, well, the really big stuff like consciousness.
Right. If we can build functional circuits, even design circuits that don't exist naturally,
Yeah.
how does that change how we think about and how we even study something as profound as consciousness itself?
Definitely something to chew on.